Beloved brethren and fellow congregants, on this solemn occasion, we gather together to contemplate the profundity of the natural force of grief and sorrow. Indeed, grief, like an immutable law of nature, bestows upon us its unrelenting weight and sears the depths of our hearts. Grief, with its unyielding grasp, can leave us feeling helpless and isolated, as if we are mere pawns at the mercy of an unseen and unyielding force. Yet even in the depths of our darkest moments, we are not alone, for we are united in our shared experience of the agony of loss. As we reflect on the natural force of grief and sorrow, we are reminded that it is a testament to the profound depth of love and connection that exists between us and those we have lost. For even as grief tears at our very being, it is an affirmation of the enduring legacy of those who have departed from our midst. Let us therefore not despair, dear brethren, for in the natural force of grief and sorrow, we find not only pain and suffering, but also a glimmer of hope and the possibility of healing. May we find solace in the shared experience of grief, and may we be strengthened in our resolve to carry on the memories of those we have lost. Dear brethren, as we contemplate the natural force of grief and sorrow, it is important to recognize that many among us carry the weight of past traumas and losses, which can make the experience of grief all the more challenging. Indeed, the emotional and psychological toll of unresolved grief can be felt long after the initial loss has occurred. However, it is possible to train oneself to not let grief influence their daily life. This requires a conscious effort to acknowledge and process one's emotions in a healthy manner, rather than suppressing them or allowing them to consume us. It is important to understand that there are both healthy and unhealthy ways of dealing with grief. Healthy coping mechanisms may include seeking support from loved ones or professionals, engaging in self-care activities such as exercise or meditation, and finding meaning and purpose in the midst of loss. On the other hand, unhealthy coping mechanisms may include substance abuse, avoidance of emotions, or self-destructive behaviors. These methods may provide temporary relief, but ultimately do not address the root cause of the grief and can lead to further emotional and physical harm. To train oneself to not let grief influence them, it is important to recognize and accept that grieving is a natural and necessary process. It takes time and patience to heal from loss, and there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Each individual's journey is unique and should be respected. In addition, seeking professional help can be a valuable tool in the process of healing from grief. This may include therapy, support groups, or other forms of counseling. In the face of this reality, it can be tempting to seek out fleeting pleasures and chase after worldly desires. But as the saying goes, instead of chasing butterflies, one must build a garden. We must cultivate a life that is meaningful, purposeful, and virtuous, rather than pursuing temporary pleasures that will ultimately fade away. Furthermore, we must reject the modern world's emphasis on materialism and instant gratification, and instead strive to live in a way that is consistent with our values and beliefs. This requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to stand apart from the crowd. As the great philosopher Heraclitus once said, "Like a shadow, life will only follow you if you face away from it and reject it." We must reject the shallow and superficial aspects of modern life and turn our attention towards that which truly matters: love, compassion, and service to others. In doing so, we can lead a good and virtuous life, one that is grounded in the knowledge that our time on this earth is limited, and that every moment is precious. By rejecting the distractions and temptations of the modern world, we can cultivate a life of meaning, purpose, and joy. In this journey towards healing and purpose, the insights of philosopher Albert Camus can provide valuable guidance. Camus believed that in the face of life's inherent absurdity and meaninglessness, we must create our own meaning and purpose. He wrote, "The only way to deal with the absurdity of life is to rebel against it. By rejecting the absurdity of grief and the fleeting nature of life, we can rebel against the forces that would seek to drag us down. We can cultivate a life of meaning and purpose, one that is grounded in the values of love, compassion, and service to others. So let us reject the shadows of grief and the distractions of modern society. Let us cultivate our own gardens and rebel against the absurdity of life. Let us strive to lead lives of purpose and meaning, knowing that every moment is precious and every action counts. May the natural force of grief and sorrow be transformed into a force for healing.